Research in common parlance refers to a search for knowledge. One can also define research as a scientific and systematic search for pertinent information on a specific topic. In fact, research is an art of scientific investigation. Research methodology is a structured and scientific approach used to collect, analyze, and interpret quantitative or qualitative data to answer research questions or test hypotheses. A research methodology is like a plan for carrying out research, and helps keep researchers on track by limiting the scope of the research. Several aspects must be considered before selecting an appropriate research methodology, such as research limitations and ethical concerns that may affect your research. The research methodology section in a scientific paper describes the different methodological choices made, such as the data collection and analysis methods, and why these choices were selected. The reasons should explain why the methods chosen are the most appropriate to answer the research question. A good research methodology also helps ensure the reliability and validity of the research findings. There are three types of research methodology, that is, quantitative, qualitative and mixed method, which can be chosen based on the research objectives. What is research methodology? A research methodology describes the techniques and procedures used to identify and analyze information regarding a specific research topic. It is a process by which researchers design their study so that they can achieve their objectives using the selected research instruments. It includes all the important aspects of research, including research design, data collection methods, data analysis methods, and the overall framework within which the research is conducted. While these points can help you understand what is research methodology, you also need to know why it is important to pick the right methodology. Objectives of research. The purpose of research is to discover answers to questions through the application of scientific procedures. The main aim of research is to find out the truth which is hidden and which has not been discovered as yet. Though each research study has its own specific purpose, we may think of research objectives as falling into a number of following broad groupings. To gain familiarity with a phenomenon or to achieve new insights into it, studies with this object in view are termed as exploratory or formulative research studies. To portray accurately the characteristics of a particular individual, situation, or a group, studies with this object in view are known as descriptive research studies. To determine the frequency with which something occurs, or with which it is associated with something else, studies with this object in view are known as diagnostic research studies. To test a hypothesis of a causal relationship between variables, such studies are known as hypothesis testing research studies. Types of research. There are three types of research methodology, based on the type of research and the data required. Quantitative research methodology focuses on measuring and testing numerical data. This approach is good for reaching a large number of people in a short amount of time. This type of research helps in testing the causal relationships between variables, making predictions, and generalizing results to wider populations. Qualitative research methodology examines the opinions, behaviors, and experiences of people. It collects and analyzes words and textual data. This research methodology requires fewer participants, but is still more time-consuming because the time spent per participant is quite large. This method is used in exploratory research where the research problem being investigated is not clearly defined. Mixed method research methodology uses the characteristics of both quantitative and qualitative research methodologies in the same study. This method allows researchers to validate their findings, verify if the results observed using both methods are complementary, and explain any unexpected results obtained from one method by using the other method. Research approaches. The above description of the types of research brings to light the fact that there are two basic approaches to research, viz., quantitative approach and the qualitative approach. The former involves the generation of data in quantitative form, which can be subjected to rigorous quantitative analysis in a formal and rigid fashion. This approach, can be further subclassified into inferential, experimental and simulation approaches to research. The purpose of inferential approach to research is to form a database from which to infer characteristics or relationships of population. This usually means survey research where a sample of population is studied, questioned or observed, to determine its characteristics, and it is then inferred that the population has the same characteristics. Experimental approach is characterized by much greater control over the research environment, and in this case, some variables are manipulated to observe their effect on other variables. Simulation approach involves the construction of an artificial environment within which relevant information and data can be generated. This permits an observation of the dynamic behavior of a system, or its subsystem, under controlled conditions. The term simulation in the context of business and social sciences applications refers to the operation of a numerical model that represents the structure of a dynamic process. Given the values of initial conditions, parameters, and exogenous variables, a simulation is run to represent the behavior of the process over time. Simulation approach can also be useful in building models for understanding future conditions. Qualitative approach to research is concerned with subjective assessment of attitudes, opinions, and behavior. Research in such a situation is a function of researchers' insights and impressions. Such an approach to research generates results either in non-quantitative form or in the form which are not subjected to rigorous quantitative analysis. Generally, the techniques of focus group interviews, projective techniques, and depth interviews are used. All these are explained at length in chapters that follow. Research and scientific method. For a clear perception of the term research, one should know the meaning of scientific method. The two terms, research and scientific method, are closely related. Research, as we have already stated, can be termed as an inquiry into the nature of, the reasons for, and the consequences of any particular set of circumstances, whether these circumstances are experimentally controlled or recorded just as they occur. Further, research implies the researcher is interested in more than particular results. He is interested in the repeatability of the results, and in their extension to more complicated and general situations. On the other hand, the philosophy common to all research methods and techniques, although they may vary considerably from one science to another, is usually given the name of scientific method. In this context, Carl Pearson writes, "The scientific method is one and same in the branches of science, and that method is the method of all logically trained minds." The unity of all sciences consists alone in its methods, not its material. The man who classifies facts of any kind whatever, who sees their mutual relation and describes their sequences, is applying the scientific method and is a man of science. Scientific method is the pursuit of truth as determined by logical considerations. The ideal of science is to achieve a systematic interrelation of facts. Scientific method attempts to achieve this ideal by experimentation, observation, logical arguments from accepted postulates and a combination of these three in varying proportions. In scientific method, logic aids in formulating propositions explicitly and accurately so that their possible alternatives become clear. Further, logic develops the consequences of such alternatives, and when these are compared with observable phenomena, it becomes possible for the researcher or the scientist to state which alternative is most in harmony with the observed facts. All this is done through experimentation and survey investigations, which constitute the integral parts of scientific method. Experimentation is done to test hypotheses and to discover new relationships, if any, among variables. But the conclusions drawn on the basis of experimental data are generally criticized for either faulty assumptions, poorly designed experiments, badly executed experiments, or faulty interpretations. As such, the researcher must pay all possible attention while developing the experimental design and must state only probable inferences. The purpose of survey investigations may also be to provide scientifically gathered information to work as a basis for the researchers for their conclusions. The scientific method is, thus, based on certain basic postulates which can be stated as under. It relies on empirical evidence. It utilizes relevant concepts. It is committed to only objective considerations. It presupposes ethical neutrality, i.e., it aims at nothing but making only adequate and correct statements about population objects. It results into probabilistic predictions. Its methodology is made known to all concerned for critical scrutiny or for use in testing the conclusions through replication. It aims at formulating most general axioms or what can be termed as scientific theories.